Oscoda Township Board meeting. We could begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Have everyone rise, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh, yeah. If we could get a roll call, please.
Mr. Cummings? Here. Ms. McGuire? Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Taser?
Present.
Mr. Sutton here. Mr. Wusterbarth?
Present.
Mr. Palmer?
Here. Next is the agenda. Do we have any additions or corrections to the agenda?
No.
Can I get a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
Make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Support.
A motion by Mr. Sutton, support by Mr. Spencer. Roll call, please.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Wusterbarth?
Yes.
Mr. Taser?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Palmer?
Yes. The agenda is approved. Next is our public comment. This is an opportunity for anyone to make a comment. We ask that you fill out a card, and if you'd state your name. Do we have any cards?
I have one. Raymond Catola regarding the Corridor Business District amendments, first read.
Over here.
Right over there.
Hello, good evening. Raymond Catula. I'm here to request that the Corridor Business District Amendment, you know what, can I lower this? I'm sorry, before the time starts.
I think it's fine, Ray. We can hear you.
Good? Okay. Good evening. I'm here to request that the Corridor Business District Amendment apply prospectively, not retroactively. I should be allowed to continue my site plan approval process subject to the retail sales establishment general use category of the Corridor Business District, and here's why. When I first approached the township in July 2022, the planner, John Lockengelli, advised that planning and zoning director via email that adding gas pumps to my existing retail store, party, and food center would be governed under retail general. So we relied on the township planner's instructions. I then applied for a variance and was approved on February 17, 2023 for my site plan under the existing ordinance, and then submitted formal application for site plan approval April 14, 2023. The Planning Commission reviewed the site plan application on May 1st, 23 under retail general use category and postponed approval to hold a pre-development meeting on the project.
Mr. Chairman, may I interject? What's on the agenda is the ordinance, not an actual site plan review. I think
Right.
Mr. Catola's comment should be reserved to the second public comment if he's not specifically addressing the agenda item, which is the ordinance in general, not a specific case.
That's what I'm talking about, the Corridor Business District.
But you just referenced your particular case many times in your presentation.
Sure. So I'm giving the reasons why it's addressed towards the Corridor Business District.
This is an amendment to an existing ordinance. It doesn't have anything to do with any particular case.
Right. So
That's what
this
we're
is
approving
this
tonight.
public comment here is about the Corridor Business District amendment.
Okay, and just, hold on. We don't have a timer on, and this TV isn't on down here. Can we get that on? Does somebody have a timer?
I'm doing it. It's not working. I got it on my phone.
Okay, all right.
Okay, so yeah.
Sorry, Ray, go ahead.
That's fine. We had a pre-development meeting and incorporated all the necessary requirements into the final site plan for approval. The township planner and engineer had recommended approval for the site plan as noted in the zoning
Mr.
department
Chairman.
memos April 26, 23 and June 1st, 23.
I'm sorry, Ray, what you're talking about doesn't have anything to do with the amendment we're going to be discussing tonight.
Yeah, so towards the end, it does also reincorporate the ordinance, Corridor Business District Amendment.
You want to
I
read
mean,
that?
do you want me to
part?
wait until the end? Is that gonna?
You're welcome to talk about anything at the second public comment, but
Okay.
for the first public comment, it has to be to an agenda item and just specifically to an agenda. The issue right, and I'm not trying to be difficult,
Sure. I
but we're
understand.
not discussing a particular case for what's on the agenda. That's my opinion, and I think it needs to, any comments need to be directed towards the ordinance itself, not a particular case.
Okay, well, I'll read the last paragraph that regards that, and then I'll get back to it at the end too. So I'll
Yeah.
read this letter at the
At
end.
second public
That's fine.
comment, you can say anything
Okay.
that you'd like.
All right. Okay. All right, so basically, I'm here to request that this corridor business district amendment that is on the agenda apply prospectively, not retroactively. And then I'll continue the letter after the next comment.
Thank you for your
Thank you.
understanding.
Thank you. Sorry for the interruption. Do we have any other cards?
No, we do not.
Okay. Next is the consent agenda. We have the meeting minutes from regular meeting from September 25th, our budget work session, meeting minutes from October 2nd, and the special meeting from October 2nd. Were there any questions or corrections in any of those? I believe I went over them with Mr. Sutton earlier, and we made some corrections. And what is in your packet, I believe, is correct. Next, we have the payment of bills, total of $208,869.15. That includes the prepaid from October 10th, $115,021.05. October 3rd, $84,261.03. The WEX check run, $8,616.50, and check run, the Visa, $970.57. Includes the C2R2 payments, CWSRF payments, and the tax payments, which I believe everyone should have a copy of. It was left out of the packet, but I believe Ms. Klein brought copies of that for everyone. Are there any questions or comments on the consent agenda?
I have a correction for B, prepaid October 10th for tomorrow's check run. The new total is $121,821,005. I provided each one of you with an update. That was just one of the facade grants that had not been marked approved, so that is outlined on the front ledger copy and highlighted in your copies as well on page 1 under Lakefront District.
Yeah, and
And I believe, give me a second, I'll give you a total on that.
we did discuss that at the finance meeting this morning.
That would give all.
Hey, Josh, Lake Pro, is that Van Etten?
Yes,
So that
Yes.
goes back to their SAD, okay,
yeah. Those are the last two bills for the year.
okay.
That would make our new total for bills $215,669.15.
Did you give me that amount again? Josh, could you state that amount again? I just.
Oh, $215,669.15 for the
Thank you.
total.
Thank you.
Were there any other questions or comments, concerns about the payment of bills? That was the only correction you had, Mr. Sutton?
Yes. And then we did have the tax sheet provided, because that wasn't in the packet. That's that one that was sitting here for all of you for the tax overpayments as well, so that's, should cover everything.
Yeah, everyone should have gotten a copy of that tax overpayment. It's listed on here, but it was, didn't get included in the packet. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda with corrections?
So moved.
Support?
We have a motion by Mr. Spencer, support by Mr. Worcesterbarth. Roll call, please.
Mr. Worcesterbarth?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Taser?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed. Next is the superintendent's report. Ms. Klein.
Okay, the trackless angle sweeper broom purchase request. Your packet contains a memo from DPW Supervisor Bill Hamlin regarding a quote from Bell Equipment for the purchase of a powered angle broom for the trackless machine, also purchased from Bell Equipment, currently used for snow removal. This brush can be used to remove different kinds of debris, including snow from sidewalks and various other walkways. Currently, the township has budgeted $9,200 in the 2023 capital improvement plan for this attachment, and current pricing for this unit is $10,765. I would ask that the board consider approving the purchase of the trackless angle sweeper broom in the amount of $10,765 to be paid from Fund 101-751-980.100.
Questions, comments?
So we have to make we have to move some money then, an appropriation?
No.
No, there's money in the fund.
Yeah, we discussed this morning for the financial meeting. There are funds available, but we had only approved the
9,200.
9,200, so we're coming back. The funds are available, but we need to approve the new amount.
But it would be a budget amendment at a minimum.
We had budgeted $18,900 in that line item.
Oh, and we haven't spent it, so
So,
we don't need it then.
no,
Okay.
we're good. We have enough money to cover that.
Is there, what else was in that line item that you were going to purchase for $18,000 that might detrimentally be affected by the additional funding here?
It's a basic equipment line, so.
So there wasn't anything really specific that just, other than this,
Correct.
and they just gave them a little bit of extra just in case, budgeted?
Yes, I'm sure there was something that we had discussed during budget time last year that wanted that budget padded for a reason, so.
And I will say, this will be a handy tool for that trackless machine. It's a snow blower that we bought a couple of years ago that does real well on removing snow when it's fairly deep, but when it's just a light powdery snow, it doesn't. So this brush will, I was just curious,
It leaves like a
I'll
half inch on the
talk to
sidewalk.
Bill, but I wonder
that's
if
what this will
we'll be able to use this at the beach for clearing off the boardwalk.
Yes. Yes, that and Mr. Hamlin had stated it would work really well for the F-41 path.
Yes,
Because they have a hard time sometimes getting the snow off of there,
yeah.
so.
What do you mean by the path? You mean that kind of sidewalk or
The kind of bike path, yes.
Yeah, okay, got it, yeah, okay.
Yes.
Okay, I see what you mean by
A little
path.
bigger than a sidewalk.
Yeah,
Quite a bit.
yeah.
But it works well for that.
Thanks.
Yeah,
Okay.
it should work great. That's a nifty little machine. Any other questions, comments? Do I have a motion?
I would make a motion to approve the purchase of the trackless angle sweeper broom in the amount of $10,765 to be paid from Fund 101-751-980-100.
Support, Cummings.
We have a motion by Mr. Sutton, support by Mr. Cummings. Roll call, please.
Mr. Taser?
Yes.
Mr. Wusterbarth?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed. Next.
Okay. Your packet contains a memo, another memo from DPW Supervisor Bill Hamlin to purchase rollout construction safety signs. As we prioritize the safety of both our workers and the community, it is crucial to have the appropriate signage in place to maintain a safe environment for our workers and the public. The cost for 9 signs, including freight, will be $2,914.45. I would ask that the board consider the approval for 9 safety signs in the amount of $2,914.45 to be paid from Fund 101-250-956.000.
In the letter, it states that that these signs are actually required, not just that we want them, but they are required by MDOT. Is that
Yes.
That's the case?
So when they're downtown hanging baskets or putting flowers out, or even for
The light
our
poles.
water and sewer department, if they're working
Blocking the road for any
and
reason?
anywhere on the roadway, they're required to have them.
Well, I suppose we better approve that then, huh?
Is that your motion?
Yeah.
I'll make a motion to approve Mr. Hamlin's purchase request for 9 safety signs in the amount of $2,914.45 to be paid from Fund 101-250-956.000.
Support, Cummings.
We have a motion by Mr. Spencer, support by Mr. Cummings. Roll call, please.
Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Taser?
Yes.
Mr. Wishtabar?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Palmer?
Yes, motion passed. Next is the resolution and ordinances. Did you want to speak to that, or?
Well, so this is an amendment for the corridor business district, providing definitions and standards to approve vehicle fueling stations.
Yes.
And this is a first read, so at this point, it's just comments or any requested changes by the board to
So
go
is
back to
this-
the planning commission.
Is this updating an ordinance that we had before, or is this generating a new one for fuel stations?
No, this is updating.
That's
Because
why it says
currently,
amend.
Yeah.
in our current ordinance, it doesn't allow for gas station fueling. So, believe it or not, yes. See, in the corridor business district, so. Bob? Anything else you want to throw in there?
The corridor business district, there's 2 sections of that. One up US 23 from Evergreen north, and the other part splits off at 41, the approximate party and food area. When we rewrote this ordinance probably over a year ago and adopted it here, fueling stations, gas stations was not a principal or a special land use, was left out. So that would make all of the gas stations up in town and everything as non-conforming. Doesn't mean that they're illegal, it just means they're non-conforming. And it didn't have an addition to add more stations. So this amendment puts it in as a special land use permit with definitions of what it is and conditions for approval. All special land use need to have final site plans approved in order to have that final site plan attached, whether there's standards for approval.
So is this from?
So that's what this does. That puts it back into the ordinance as a special land use. It defines what they are, and then it also puts the standards for approval.
So how does it, so is that going to be, once we approve it moving forward, it's not going to be retroactive at all?
They were never allowed before in the present ordinance.
Interesting, okay.
Any ones that there would be considered non-conforming. Well, now they wouldn't be non-conforming, they're back in as long as they fit all of those standards.
And that would only come into play if they were making changes to their present facility.
Right. Yes.
Because a non-conforming use, I mean, it can stay as long as it stays the way it is. When you want to make a change to it,
Then you have to add a site plan to it.
then you have to have a site plan and conform to the ordinance. So
Okay.
that's what this will do. I think maybe originally, and I'm not positive of this, but possibly it was thought that in this district, since there were already 5 gas stations, that probably in the future there would not be an additional, more gas stations in that one district. But, as Mr. Taser pointed out, it's been brought up that there are requests for an additional gas station, so now this puts the standards for making that happening going forward, and even for the existing gas stations, like I said, if they make changes in the future.
We also are not calling them gas stations, they're vehicle fuel station, because we don't know what type of fuel, we don't want to have to amend this in a couple of years if something else comes out. So this would be covered then under vehicle fueling station.
Yeah.
So is this going to affect any plans that might currently be in the works? Are they going to have to change their, you know, if there was a gas station?
This will affect every site plan coming forward.
Moving forward from the time it's approved, or ones that have already been established as in progress?
There's no final, there are no site plans that's been approved.
I understand. Okay.
And this is just a first read, so we won't be taking action on this tonight. This came from the Planning Commission, where they had a first read, and then a subsequent meeting had a public hearing, and they did some, they went through this for like grammatical errors and all those kinds of things. So, but I would encourage everybody on this board to read through it. If you have something you think that needs to be changed or whatever, you can bring that up at the next meeting, unless you have something tonight that you've seen and hear that you want to correct.
It looked all right to me from my first read, but okay.
Usually in the recent last couple of years, whenever something comes from the Planning Commission, since they hold a first read and the Planning Commission members review it, and then they have a public hearing, and they go through it pretty closely for corrections of any kind. So usually by the time it gets to us, it's pretty good shape.
There's been a lot of eyes on it.
Yeah, a lot of eyes on this already. So if there's no more discussion on that, we can move on to the next item, which is in other, the scheduling a public hearing.
Thank you, Mr. Palmer. Thank you, Tammy, for adding this to the agenda. It's been a process that's been going on for a few months now. All I'm simply asking the board is for a vote to support holding a public hearing for the dissolution of the Cedar Lake Improvement Board based upon some things that have been researched from a few riparians, including Mr. Linderman, who's put in a lot of effort over the last year and a half on this subject, and I have to give him credit for staying on that. Two of the big issues are just constant OMA violations, and they're ongoing, as Josh has now gotten involved with some FOIA requests, specifically through Oscoda Township, as related to the CLIB. But the large one is purchase of real estate, real property that has been outside of the approved SAD definitions set by the court. So money has been expended that has not been approved in these SAD districts for these types of expenditures. And I think the best course of action, since this board has been enacted since 1995 and has had no bylaws, in the last year we've been working on that to bring bylaws forward, but this board has been operating effectively, you know, for 28 years with no bylaws. I mean, that should be the first thing that is set up when this resolution is done by the county. This is only if we proceed with the public hearing, the soonest we could have one, and I will provide all the detail to the board members prior and to the public of the issues that I have in the packet, would be the first meeting in November, because we have to give 15 days public notice, so it would not be at our next meeting in October, it would have to be in our first meeting in November. However, if we proceed, because this is a dual county board and it involves 2 counties and 2 townships, this process would have to be carried out both in Greenbush Township, Alcona County, and Iosco County, as well as the CLIB board itself. So it is quite a high hurdle, but based on my position as an elected trustee, I'm sorry I have to call out the fiduciary oversight, and it's wrong with what's happened. And I was part of the last one. I trusted, and I did not verify before I voted on purchasing that other property. I'm part of the problem here, and I'm trying to resolve it and fix it for the riparians. Again, the CLIB board does not collect any public tax money. It only collects money that is a court-ordered SAD district, which is a special assessment district. So anybody that has waterfront property on Cedar Lake are the ones, i.e. the riparians, that have been paying these fees for these expenditures and for the lake management, for the weed control. Does not involve, the CLIB has not received any public grants or any public money. It's only been riparian money. And that's the other issue I have with this type of board. Unlike Van Etten, where it's set up by the lake owners, we have a government entity with three appointed positions from each county and one elected riparian by the CLIB board itself, managing riparian money. I believe it's in the best interest to turn this over to to what what Van Etten Lake is doing, and let the riparians manage this without the government oversight and involvement, because it's purely not needed in my mind. So, with that, I'm asking for an affirmative vote, and I have to get this right. Give me a second here. That Oscoda Township pursues the dissolution of the Cedar Lake Improvement Board, known as the CLIB, per MCL 324.30929.
So tonight, you're just requesting scheduling a public hearing
Scheduling the public hearing
at our November
at the first opportunity, which I think would be
November
the first
13th.
November 13th.
November 13th meeting, yes.
Any other questions or concerns, comments?
Yeah, there was an email that I think Jamie shared with the board here regarding Jamie Sobolewski's opinion from the county. And I just, as you brought this point up, Steve, I was wondering, in that email, Ms. Sobolewski had raised the questions about all of the various points that need to be in place in order for the dissolution to take place. Was there any concern on your part that these would not be able to be met and that would then block the dissolution?
The only thing I can do, Tim, is bring it forth to Oscoda Township, as I've been appointed from this board to sit on that CLIB, and to bring it forth at the next CLIB meeting. I can't bring it forward to both counties or Greenbush Township, because honestly, I don't know what they're going to do.
Right, sure.
So I'm just trying to start the process that I think is the best solution, and I'll be addressing it at the next CLIB that I can attend.
And that makes sense.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yep, good.
Thank you.
Was that a motion?
No, not yet.
Are you making a motion? You want to make the motion?
Okay, I'll restate it.
He did, but this didn't say.
I would like to make a motion to schedule a public meeting within Oscoda Township for the dissolution of the Cedar Lake Improvement Board, known as the CLIB, pursuant per MCL 324.30929, at the earliest time frame allowed after public notice, which it appears would be our November 14th meeting. November 14th, 2023.
And it's a public hearing.
It'll be a public hearing.
Okay.
Okay.
Support?
I'll support that.
We have a motion by Mr. Wusterbarth, support by Mr. Sutton. Roll call, please.
Mr. Wusterbarth?
Yes.
Mr. Taser?
Yes.
Mr. Sutton, yes. Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Mr. Cummings?
Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes. Motion passed. So we will be holding a public hearing at our November 13th meeting to discuss the dissolution of the CLIB.
Thank you.
Next, we're up to our public comment, where you can speak on any issue that you would like to discuss. Start over here. Anyone have a public comment? Yes, Ray.
Could you read that for us one more time?
And I apologize about that, but I'm just trying, we need to follow certain procedures, and sometimes we get laxed up here as well.
I understand. So the time started, and can we restart that?
Yep, go ahead. Can you restart the clock?
Good evening. I'm here to request that the corridor business district amendments apply prospectively, not retroactively. I should be allowed to continue my site plan approval process subject to the retail sales establishment general use category of the corridor business district, and here's why. When I first approached the township in July 2022, the planner John Yacongelli advised the planning and zoning director via email that I forwarded to everybody on the board and the planning commission. So that adding gas pumps to my existing retail store, party, and food center would be governed under retail general. So we relied on the township planner's instructions. I then applied for a variance and was approved on February 17, 23 for my site plan under the existing ordinance, and then submitted formal application for site plan approval April 14, 23. The planning commission reviewed the site plan application on May 1st, 23 under retail general use category and postponed approval to hold a pre-development meeting on the project. We had a pre-development meeting and incorporated the necessary requirements into the final site plan for approval. The township planner and engineer had recommended approval of the site plan as noted in the zoning department memos April 26, 23 and June 1st, 23. The planning commission scheduled final site plan approval for June 5, 23, but the matter was removed from the agenda when the township decided to pursue zoning amendment, which deprived me of my rights to obtain approval under the existing zoning ordinance when the final site plan submittal complied with all requirements of the existing ordinance. It wasn't until the email from John Yacongelli to the planning and zoning director on June 1st, 23 that he reversed his earlier decision, now decided that ordinance should be amended to specify gas station as a special land use. This change in direction 10 months after township advised me I could proceed under retail general, causing me to spend a lot of time and money preparing a site plan and obtaining a variance under the original ordinance, and it would have been approved by the planning commission had the planner not changed his mind. Now I'm not able to meet all of the special land use conditions on the new ordinance. It's unfair to impose a new set of requirements after obtaining a variance as required, and was on the verge of getting approval relying on the direction I received from the township planners, which I had been pursuing for several months. There's no reason that retail sales establishment general could not apply to the sale of gasoline or fuel as it does to the sale of many other products that are not specified under the zoning ordinance. The township bylaw has to allow the proposed fuel sale under some zoning use, otherwise all gas stations in the township would be non-conforming uses. The township cannot engage in exclusionary zoning to exclude gas stations under the existing ordinance, which is what this would be. Nobody from the township can explain why gas is not permitted as a retail use, general by right, covered under the general retail sales use category of the existing ordinance, like other products sold that are not expressly in the ordinance. Please apply the ordinance amendment prospectively to future submittals and not retroactively to my project, so that my site plan to be reviewed and approved under the existing ordinance. This is the only fair resolution of this matter. If it can't be done at this time, I ask to be tabled for further consideration. At the last Planning Commission meeting, the Planning Commission members acknowledged the fact that I was being treated unfairly. I appreciate the kind words, however, action speaks louder than words. Now is your chance to make things right. And also in regards to the corridor business district amendments that you guys had mentioned, it does truly affect my site plan, and there is currently an existing zoning ordinance that approves fuel by right as retail. You do not have a list that shows what is considered retail and what is not. So for that matter, fuel and gasoline sales is permitted under the retail general use. Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Hi there, Kathy Woosterbarth. I'm here to inform the public and the board that there's going to be a public meeting on Wednesday, October 11th for the interim remedial action plan for the alert aircraft area coming from the former Wordsmith Air Force Base.
Excuse me.
Bless you, Jim.
I'm so sorry.
It will be at 5 o'clock at the United Methodist Church. There is actually also a virtual option. which is kind of tough to get to because they printed it with this long address in the paper. But it is available on the Need Our Water Facebook page if you want to access it that way. I'll try to get it out another way somehow before Wednesday so that it's easy to get to. But you can attend virtually. But again, it's at the United Methodist Church on Wednesday at 5 o'clock. What I want to point out is that the interim actions that the Air Force is going to be presenting, it doesn't actually capture all of the plume that it could. So an interim action is supposed to protect the health of, of the community. And there are portions of that plume that are flowing from that area that are not getting captured that the Air Force could easily include in their actions. And so the people in our group are going to be asking for this expanded, I guess the filtration systems and the pump and treat. Another example of how this sort of worked before is there was an action that was done for that Ratliff area, the Ratliff Park area. It's short by about 1,500 feet in terms of capturing the one northern part of that plume. So we just got to stay on them to just do it right the first time. And so that's what we're asking the Air Force to do. And so hopefully those community members that are affected in that Pine Street area, which is if you go to the state park there, the campground on F41, that there's some homes there in the Pine Street area, and then that Camp Nisqually area is affected also. So we just really want to get that plan done right the first time. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Okay, with that, I will go to board comment. Mr. Cummings?
Nothing from me, thank you.
Mr. Spencer?
Nope, not today.
Mr. Sutton?
No.
Mr. Taser?
Nope.
Guess everybody wants to get to Monday Night Football tonight, I guess. Steve, you have anything?
I'll be the bad guy.
Come on, you got something.
Okay, I've attended the last couple of planning commission meetings. There's a lot of rhetoric out there in the public. I've addressed this publicly within especially the last meeting, and Bill was in attendance with me. It appears we have some chain of command issues going on between our board and their board and administration, and I'd like to get that cleaned up. There is no reporting structure to administration. Tammy does not report. I want to say the superintendent does not report to the planning commission, does not report to any of its commissioners or its chair. She is in her role as oversight, as this board is oversight. And when things look like they're going awry and there's details that have come out, then it's this board's responsibility to step in, as well as the superintendent from administration to set things straight. And that's basically what's happened here in the last month and a half, 2 months. Again, there's a lot of rhetoric. Some of it is disconcerting because it's going specifically after Mr. Taser and mostly after Ms. Klein in the public eye, in Facebook. And I believe Ms. Klein has been slandered and libeled. And as she is she is an employee of the township, she's got a different set of rules and elected positions sitting up at this table. So that's something that I'd like to address at the next meeting. There is a lot of rhetoric and a lot of lies and innuendos greatly affecting her, and I think this board needs to address that, possibly legal, with authorizing some legal services, and I want to have that discussion. So I'd like that as an agenda item on the next meeting. As well as I've asked for a joint meeting between this board and the planning commission with the attorney and our planner so we can straighten out some of these issues in a public environment. And I'd like that to happen as soon as possible. So I guess that would be an agenda item as well for the next meeting to approve that. I think we need to address these because it's this board's responsibility and administration to keep us out of liability and we have some potential liability with things that have gone on here recently. That's my comments.
All right, thank you. I have just a couple of comments. First of all, I'd like to thank Ms. Klein for her persistence with the Husser Board to get the primary water main on Lake Street redesignated to a secondary line so that we can put in some fire hydrants along Lake Street. There currently are no fire hydrants down Lake Street, and I think this will be something that is needed to be done for a long time. And she's met resistance from the Husser Board over the several months that she's tried to get this. We approved this way months ago, that this board approved going after that. And she's met resistance from that Husser Board, and finally she's convinced them that this is the right thing for them to do, and got them to vote in favor of making this from a primary main to a secondary main. The other comment I'd like to make, I'd like to congratulate our chamber on a successful Bigfoot Bash celebration. It went on almost all summer long. I think it was quite successful. There's a letter in the packet from the new chamber president about that. You might notice in the payment of bills, we had paid 3 of the facade grants. We are waiting for the others to submit their paperwork so they can be paid for their facade grants. I think we haven't finished the budget yet, but I believe we're going to plan on some money for the budget for next year for a similar facade grant program. I think this is a good way for our businesses to be able to improve their facades on their businesses, and for the township to help facilitate that. And the other comment I wanted to remind everyone is that there are, along with the Air Force meeting on the 11th, there's also a meeting at the high school for concerning the consumers' hydro dams. The one on the 11th is for the Loud and 5-channel dam. Consumers, as maybe, I don't know if everybody knows, but Consumers is considering closing those dams and removing them, or possibly selling them to a third party. Then there's also a meeting on October 24th at the high school, again, concerning the Foote and Cook dams. And I think it's important for everybody in the community to attend those meetings to express our feelings about the loss of these dams and what it would do to our entire area along the Oscoda River there. So those are at October 11th and October 24th, both at the high school. The meetings start at 6. The doors open at 5:30. So with that, I will make a motion.
Oh, before you do that, Mr. Palmer, Mr. Woosterbarth's comments made me remember this press release that came out for the Planning and Zoning Commission. Would it be inappropriate to read that again at our meeting now? Real quick?
It's up to you, Jeremy.
Is that, you okay with that,
That can
Mr.
be
Palmer?
part of you make that your board comment?
Thank
Sure.
you. Press release regarding Maxwell Special Land Use Approval. Oscoda Township, October 2nd, 2023. There has been a fair amount of misinformation circulating regarding the recent special land use application for the property located at North US 23 Cedar Lake Road. Oscoda Township would like to set the record straight. The Michigan Zoning Enabling Act governs the zoning and planning process in Michigan. The Michigan Zoning Enabling Act allows a local government in its discretion to allow for special land uses in some or all of its zoning districts. It provides that if special land uses are authorized by local government, then site plans must be submitted, reviewed, and approved as part of the special land use application. Pursuant to the Michigan Zoning Enabling Act, Oscoda Township adopted a zoning ordinance. The Township zoning ordinance allows for special land uses in several zoning districts and echoes the state law requirements that special land use applicants or applications include a, quote, complete site plan, unquote. Article 9, Section 9.5.2.d. Article 9, Section 9.5.4 of the Township zoning ordinance provides that special land use and site plan approvals, quote, shall be concurrent, unquote. Finally, Article X, Section 10.5 of the zoning ordinance provides that approvals for site plans reviewed in conjunction with a special land use application shall be conditioned upon approval of the special land use by the Planning Commission. These zoning ordinance provisions were not properly considered and applied to the Maxwell special land use process. Specifically, on March 16, 2023, the Oscoda Township Planning Commission was asked to consider the special land use application for a proposed mini-storage development on property located on North US 23, aka also known as the Maxwell Project. Importantly, there was no site plan presented to the Planning Commission as part of the special land use approval request as required by the Michigan Zoning Enabling Act and the Township Zoning Ordinance, as more fully explained above. The then Planning and Zoning Director incorrectly advised the Planning Commission at that meeting that site plan review comes, quote, later, unquote. In reliance on the Planning and Zoning Director's inaccurate statement, the Planning Commission approved this Maxwell special land use permit without the required site plan. On June 5th, 2023, a site plan for the Maxwell project was presented to the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission voted to approve the site plan subject to the review and approval of the township engineer. The township engineer never approved the site plan, and therefore, there was no final approval, or there was no approved final site plan for the Maxwell project. In the meantime, on July 7th, 2023, despite not having an approved final site plan nor construction permits issued by the township was notified by the Michigan Department of Transportation that construction on the Maxwell project had begun, including the creation of an entrance onto US 23, for which a MDOT permit had not been obtained. Additionally, the work that had started on the property was not in conformance with the site plan considered by the Planning Commission. The matter was scheduled for the August 7th, 2023 Planning Commission meeting to consider approval of a revised site plan, adding the proposed entrance onto US 23. Trustee Taser raised concerns regarding the process, which prompted conversations between the Township Attorney, Superintendent Klein, and Mr. Taser. The matter was properly postponed in order to review the handling of the Maxwell special land use approval and determine how best to proceed. It has been determined that the Planning Commission should consider rescinding its prior improper approval of the special land use permit and reconsider it along with an updated site plan at an upcoming Planning Commission meeting. The Township is awaiting an updated site plan from the applicant so it can move this process along. Thank you.
I'd just like to add that press release was drafted by our attorney's firm and sent to Ms. Klein for distribution within the township, using the minutes from the Planning Commission's meetings.
There we have it.
All right. Thank you. Any other board comment? Did that trigger anything else for anybody?
Sorry about that.
It's all right. Well, with that, I will make a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Adjourned. 7:20.